Yeah. We'll just wait until people get here. But we're here.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're at the LA Baby Show. I don't know what time zone I'm in or what time it is. But first and foremost, we need to know if you can hear us because we have a microphone rigged up because we're in the middle of a busy, trade show floor. So if you can hear us, just heart. I'm loud. Why don't you talk?
I can be loud too. Hi everybody. Good morning. Are you all awake for our new time shift today? Time zones and time shifts and daylight savings and all mixed together.
It's a lot. I've had a speaking gig in every time zone in America in the past 5 days.
You're right. It's so true. You know what? Sometimes that's easier to just be off.
So I am ready. This is my last public appearance of the year here at LA Baby Show. Shari and I are both here together. I have at 12:30 a baby gear Q&A, and then Shari and I at 1:45 are doing a breastfeeding and pumping Q&A live here for people. We're just here. It's our monthly Q&A. I've got a phone I don't know how to use. I figured it out. I got it under control.
You did good.
So I'm going to get questions off of Facebook. We also put a link up. Make sure you click that to enter to win a breast pump from Evenflo. Y'all all know me. Whatever. So talk about yourself. Share Bear, I'm going to have some coffee.
So hi everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to our monthly Q&A, our breastfeeding and pumping Q&A with Evenflo Feeding. I'm Shari Criso. If for those of you that don't know me, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a certified nurse midwife and an international board certified lactation consultant. I've been working with Evenflo Feeding for many years now and helped to develop their advanced double electric breast pump. And I've been working with Jamie for even longer, many more years than that, and just great to be able to answer your questions every month and help you along your breastfeeding journey, which I just want to say we've had so many people write to us since we started these Q&As, and especially lately too, telling us just how much this live stream on Facebook has made a difference for being able to reach your breastfeeding goals, to know the information that you needed to have to be prepared and to have what you want in your life. And so, I mean, just the fact that this is doing this, I'm so blessed and grateful that we get the chance to do this with you every single month, and you can get your questions answered.
Yep.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, let's do this. So we got a few questions off of my Facebook page last night with the post.
Can I answer one question on there already?
Yeah.
Kimberly.
Is it okay that my son only nurses for 2 to 5 minutes per side every 2 to 3 hours?
Good question. So I don't know how old your baby is, but here's what I can tell you, is that the amount of time that your baby spends on your breast has nothing to do with the amount of milk that they're getting. And that works in both directions. So that means if your baby's only spending 2 to 5 minutes, it's supposed to get like that eventually. So they get more and more efficient as they get older. And so if they're only on for a few minutes and baby seems satisfied and you've got those wet and poopy diapers and baby's growing and gaining weight and hitting all their milestones, you cannot tell how much milk the baby's getting in just a few minutes. It seems like the baby's doing what the baby wants to do. And on the flip side, you never want to limit the feedings either. So if your baby's telling you, I need more time, you're never timing them. Okay, so that's really, really important to make sure that you're not going based on the clock, you're going based on your baby in both directions. I just wanted to address that because it's a great thing. Actually, the feedings get shorter.
Yeah.
And that's what makes breastfeeding easier and easier as you go through. Then again, sometimes they can go a little longer. A baby has a growth spurt and that can change. So basically you're just watching your baby's cues.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people out there who will tell you your baby needs to nurse 4 or 5 minutes per side, and that's more effective in terms of baby getting fuller, but that's not really right.
Absolutely
So,
not. Absolutely not.
for a few reasons. But Kayla Waldron has a question. Nursing in public is hard with my son. He's very distractible and won't let me use a cover. I don't feel comfortable not using one. Any suggestions on how to feed him while out doing errands?
Okay. Yeah, I think that lots of babies don't like something covering their head while they're nursing. And especially as they start to get a little older and they're more aware of what you're doing with them, they'll rip them off and they don't want anything over them. They get hot too and they're just, they want to see around while they're nursing. That could be a problem for moms who don't feel comfortable. Although if you can start to try to just nurse and do it wherever you are, you may start to feel more comfortable as you do it. So that's a totally personal thing. A couple of ways that can help are to make sure that you have, having a nursing top.
Yeah.
Could be a lot easier for someone who, not everybody needs nursing clothing because you really don't, you could just lift it up and nurse. But if you're somebody who wants to be a little bit more covered and your baby doesn't like a cover over them, having a nursing top will just expose your breast only to the area where your baby is latched on, and that will be covered by your baby's head. So you're really not going to be exposing yourself and the baby doesn't have anything over them. That's when I think, when I was nursing, the only times I really wore nursing tops were when I would go out, just to be a little bit more discreet. I didn't like wearing covers, but it made it a lot easier. And lifting up my shirt and exposing my back and my belly and everything else, I didn't want to do that. So nursing tops, a nursing bra when you're out. Also, wearing a sling or a carrier, nursing in a carrier.
Nursing in a carrier will help as well.
Definitely, and it's something to practice at home, and it's kind of a skill you can get used to, and as your baby gets older, different positions. But I always had a ring sling, and that was really easy for me to nurse in. I would take it with me, stick it under my stroller, or carry the baby when I was around, but then put her in more of a sideline position into the carrier. When I was nursing, I'd actually flip her over so that her head was not on the side of the ring and her head was on the other side, and then I could nurse her here and she was just being held up to my breast. It actually helped my arms too because it gave a little more support as she got heavier.
Very good. Libby has a question. I usually like to freeze some colostrum to use for future colds or illnesses. Had baby Thursday night, and she's nursed so much that by the time we got home today, my milk is already in. Is early milk as good to save as colostrum?
Absolutely. Any milk, any breast milk is good to save and to have a little bit. But what I'd rather say about it is that you don't have to worry so much. That's a great thing if she was able to pump a little colostrum to have. But remember that when you're breastfeeding your baby, if the baby was to get sick, say you're 3-4 months into it and the baby starts to develop anything, has a virus, bacteria, whatever, your milk is going to start to adapt and change to your baby. It's even better than whatever you might have saved from the beginning, okay? Because it's more specific to where you are now. So I usually tell you, if the baby is sick at all, to nurse more at the breast if you're breastfeeding or you're nursing, not just exclusively pumping. Nursing at the breast will actually trigger an immune response right there at the time that you're doing it. And you've all seen some of these pictures where milk is different. If the baby's sick, the color changes. That's because there are antibodies and other leukocytes and everything building up in the milk as a response to the baby's illness. And so more than taking milk from months ago or weeks ago that you've frozen, which the freezing process itself changes the milk and makes it not as potent, right?
And especially if you're a mom that has high lipase or something too.
Exactly. So I would say don't worry about it. And for most moms that are listening to this, freezing colostrum, that's really hard to do. You want to be focusing those first couple days on just nursing the baby as frequently as you can. Don't try to think too much about freezing for later, storing that colostrum. Give it all to the baby right there in the moment. That's what it's meant to do. So, can we talk about the prize for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, you can see behind us, we have the really nice Evenflo backdrop. We're here at the LA Baby Show. There's thousands of parents from all over the area. We've been with them for the weekend. We're about to start day 2, and And so Evenflo Feeding is here with us, and this is the breast pump that we're giving away that Jamie was talking about earlier. It's the advanced double, and it is great for moms who are pumping, returning to work, pumping and staying home, exclusively pumping. It's a hospital strength pump that has all the features that I look for in a breast pump. And so basically I was involved in helping to design this pump from the beginning so that I could say, when they ask me, what's my wish list? Like, which pump is your favorite? Which one would you say, this has everything? And I would say, this one has this but, and this has this but, and this one has this but. Nothing had everything that I wanted. And so when we designed this, it basically has all the features that I would look for, from functionality to convenience and value and everything included. And I'll just, if you want to, I'll go really quickly.
Yeah, go listen. You do whatever. I'm going to have my coffee.
We're here to talk about breastfeeding and pumping, and it's an opportunity for you to hear from us and from Evenflo about why this pump is wonderful. Okay, so a couple features that I would look for in a breast pump. And you've probably all heard me talk about this before, but I'll do quickly. A couple things you want to look for is, one, you want to look for a pump that has multiple flanges included with the pump in different sizes. This one comes with 3 different sizes, and the importance of that is this little hole right here where your nipple goes in has to fit you right. If it doesn't fit, it's going to hurt, and you're not going to get the milk out.
Yep.
So that's really important. And this is really comfortable too. It's like squishy silicone. Very comfortable. Second thing is the pump should have independent speed and suction controls on it. And that's going to help you to customize your pump and allow your milk to flow better and more efficiently, so you can get multiple letdowns. I've been talking to moms yesterday. I demonstrated this so many different times, and what we were talking about was the fact that, you know, your baby sucks at the breast. When your baby's sucking, they know what to do, right? So you're just watching them. They're doing all these things that look like they're kind of irrelevant, or just they don't mean anything. Like the baby slows down, the baby takes a break, then all of a sudden they start to suck a different way, then they start to suck harder. All those things are ways to trigger that hormone response in your brain to get your milk to let down. And when you look at breast pumps that have like those one button, do it for you kind of let down things,
that's not how it works.
Right, it's not how it works. And the reason they designed it makes sense why they did it. They did it because, I hate to use the word, but they tried to idiot-proof the pumps.
Yeah.
Knowing that most moms don't know how to use a breast pump or how to stimulate their own letdown. So they just thought, well, we'll do a button that will just do it for you. The problem with that, and the reason that it's a little bit of a flawed design, is because not everybody lets down to the same speed. So when you do that, you're setting your pump at a certain speed, assuming that everybody will let down to that same speed. And it doesn't work that way, which is why some moms will say, it worked great for me. And other people will be like, I couldn't get any milk out. Right, because not everybody lets down to the same speed. We are taking the approach that if we give you the controls, then we can teach you how to use a breast pump. It's not rocket science.
Nope.
It's understanding your body, understanding what stimulates letdown. How do you get that oxytocin to release from your brain? And it's actually quite simple. And so there's a 3-stage pumping method that you can watch, a video that I made that helps you understand how to use your pump efficiently and effectively. You can actually go to evenflobreastfeeding.com. Evenflobreastfeeding.com. It's the card we're giving out here at the show.
We have it on a card here.
Yeah, and
show.
all the parents are taking the card, and if you go to evenflobreastfeeding.com, it will have the 3-stage pumping video on it, plus all other videos about closed systems and flange sizing and how to do that. So you can go over there and check it out.
And speaking of multiple letdowns, I would like you all to know that we're being very good about ignoring my Tinder things that keep coming through here.
I saw that.
Tinder doesn't shut off on your phone. And so when you travel, you get a lot of Tinder notifications. And because I don't live there, all I have to do is delete them all. And it's a pain in the butt. But it's multiple letdowns, just like on online dating apps. It's good stuff.
We all have our letdowns.
We all have our letdowns.
Some are good, some are not so good. Third feature, okay, and the must-have, and probably the one to actually start with. When you're looking at breast pumps, what's the number one question?
Open versus closed system.
Open versus closed system. It's the first question you should ask. Does this pump have an open system or a closed system? This pump has a closed system, and that means there is a barrier right here. This little diaphragm fits in there, creates a complete seal. Click that on, and your pump is closed. That means there's no milk getting inside your tubing, which then can cause bacteria and mold to grow and all kinds of nasty. So you want to make sure that the closed system is on your pump no matter what. And ones that have a lot of different pieces are not as easy.
Nope.
This is a really easy closed system, and that's why I really like it, because there's a lot less room for it to be put
Messed
together
up.
wrong,
Yep.
or not clicked right together so that you're actually getting moisture in stuff. You shouldn't have any moisture. And the last thing about closed systems is some pumps will say they're a closed system when they're really an open. What they're saying is that this part here is closed, meaning milk can't flow into the pump itself, but they can get into the tubing. And so be really careful that not only are you looking for a closed system, but you know what to look for and know the difference between a true closed system and not.
Tubing is a pain in the butt to clean, so no.
Absolutely. And if you want to win one, go to the link that Jamie said, and we're going to give away a pump. So.
Okay, excuse me. Michelle has a question.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding a 17-month-old and leaving him for 4 days. How much do I really have to pump? Meaning, what's the minimum I can get away with? Eye roll emoji.
Okay, well, there's two questions in that question. One is, what does the baby need, and what do you need while you're gone? Because I'm assuming you want to come back and still have a milk supply to continue breastfeeding, or you wouldn't be asking this question, right? So let's address first your baby. What does the baby need at 17 months old? What's the minimum you can get away with? Truth is, baby doesn't actually need to have any breast milk while you're gone. It's better if you can, and so the most you can leave, the more you can leave, the better. But the baby can actually eat complementary foods, drink other, like coconut milk or almond milk. That you can give that to the baby instead for hydration. I would try to have at least 2 to 4 feedings per 24 hours if possible. I don't know how much you're able to pump right now at 17 months in addition to feeding the baby while you're gone, or how long you have till you're leaving. But as far as like when you're gone, to maintain your supply, I wouldn't go any more than 6 hours between your feedings, or try to keep to the schedule that you're on when you're home with your baby. If you just go away for a few days and you don't pump while you're gone, or you wait 12 hours, or even 6 hours might be too long for you, you're going to dry up your milk. And then you're going to come home and it's going to be really hard to go back to breastfeeding. So more than what your baby needs while you're gone, it's how often do you need to pump while you're gone to maintain that supply. Your body's going to get the message really quick if you don't pump while you're gone to stop producing. So I would say try to stick to the baby's schedule and, offer other foods.
One thing I've not stopped producing are Tinder matches.
Are they still
because
coming?
they just a couple more. Not in Denver. It doesn't happen in Denver.
Only
It
here.
happens everywhere else. Right. Well, I respond differently to different pumps. I had poor output with a certain double electric pump and just gave birth Wednesday to my second. I need to buy another pump, but I'm unsure of where to turn and which brand to try.
Okay. Yeah, you'll definitely respond different to different pumps. We actually just went over this, which is, depending on the control settings, a lot of people cannot let down effectively or have multiple letdowns unless you have control over your features. Everything I just went through as far as, except for the closed system, the flange sizing and the control panel, it's the reason why they're the functionality features that I insist on is because your breast pump, the number one thing that a breast pump is made for is and that should be focused on, is maintaining and protecting your milk supply. That's what the pump is for, is maintaining, getting your milk out, and protecting that supply in every way possible. When you use a pump that doesn't fit, so like the flange is not fitting, right? If the flange isn't fitting, you're not going to get your milk out. If you can't control your speed and suction properly, then you're not going to get your milk out. So Yeah, you could let down to different pumps, and some pumps are not strong enough. Do you know what I mean? Like when we talk about like hospital strength,
Yeah.
When we talk about like what we're discussing is like the specs on the pump, like like speed level, speeds, suction levels. Does the pump maintain that same strength when used in double mode?
That's what a lot of people don't know about. I actually at ABC last month, there was this new pump that is coming out that I thought was interesting. They were showing me some stuff, but I was like, hold a minute, I need to check something. And I went through and was switching it back and forth just on my fingers to see if I could notice a difference.
Yeah.
If single versus double with suction on my fingertips with the tubes, and there was a difference between double mode versus single mode, and there shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, look, most pumps, this is how it works. See the tubing here? So there's like this little thing here so that you can convert pumps from a single pump to a double pump. And when you want to convert it to a single, what you're doing is taking that tube off and then plugging up the hole. So now imagine, when it's in single, all the suction is going to one breast. When you go back to double, you're splitting that suction in half. And if that pump motor is not strong enough, now you've divided that suction. You're not getting those suction levels on both sides. And I won't name the pump, but I used to sell one of the pumps in my store years ago before this one was available. And again, right back to like, it had this, but.
Yeah.
It had everything but. Okay, it was one of those that it was closest, but still didn't quite hit the mark because when it was used in double mode, it just didn't have enough suction for a lot of people. And so if you're buying a double pump, you should be able to use it in double mode.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to say, well, I bought this pump, it has all these features, but I can only use it in single because when I put it on double, it doesn't get the milk out. Something wrong with that. Something wrong with that motor. That's why I think Evenflo made a really great pump because it maintains its suction. It maintains its suction on both sides, and that's what really, what you're looking for is getting your milk out. So.
This is an odd thing, but Julie says, I like it better when it's just you. You are hilarious.
Well, thank you.
Well, Julie, Julie, I appreciate that, but I am no one's IBCLC. And I align myself with experts in this field to talk about things I'm not credentialed to talk about. So that's why I work with Shari. And she's also hilarious, especially when we get to turn this off and drink. So there you go. There you go.
I feel so wanted.
You're so wanted. You are so wanted. This breastfeeding, we make it as entertaining as we can, damn it.
That's
we
right.
try our best.
We try our best. I think we do good. I think we do good making breastfeeding as entertaining. I challenge you to find. I challenge you to find a more entertaining pair on the internet or anywhere
talking about nipples,
about breastfeeding and nipples, and keeping it to the pump features and doing it right. Come on
now. Let me see here. Lindsay has a good question. My baby is exclusively breastfed, but I return to work next week. Should I change the nipples of his bottles by his age or stay with the slowest since I am breastfeeding still?
Well, she's making a good point as to why would anybody want to stay with the slowest? What are those ages for? And really, the ages are kind of a guideline to kind of say, and people get too caught up on what it says on the packaging.
Yep.
Like, oh, my baby's 3 months, I have to switch the nipple because now they're 3 months. You're really going to look at the baby to see how fast are they drinking. Is the pace nice and slow? We talk about paced feeding because we want the baby to control the amount of milk that they're getting. And when the flow is just too fast, they're guzzling it down way too fast. With a breastfed baby, it gives the baby a chance to eat a little slower and control that pace. Remember, at the breast, they can control the flow. They can make the flow faster, they can make the flow slower, depending on how they suck. With a bottle, it's a little bit more difficult. So I agree with what she's saying. Keep with a slower, what we consider a younger or a slower flow nipple, so that the milk goes slower. But at the same time, if the baby's really struggling to eat, so like they're sucking and sucking and sucking and they're wearing themselves out and they're not getting enough, then that's an indication, maybe go a little faster. I think between different brands, like slow flow, fast flow, what does it mean? Maybe on one brand, it's the fast
Not all
flow.
flows are built the same.
They're not all the same. So depending on which bottle you're using, I would say watch your baby. It's always the answer.
Yep.
It's always the answer. Watch your baby. Watch what your baby's telling you. Again, we get used to feeding cues with breastfeeding. Like the baby's at the breast, so we're watching their cues. Are they still hungry? Are they sucking? Are they swallowing? Same with the bottle. Watch their cues. And I don't think it's taught enough. I don't think that's one thing that's just not taught often enough is how do we feed our baby with a bottle and still help them to maintain control over those feedings, not overfeed them, not overwhelm them, and make the experience a good experience no matter what.
Yeah.
Something we need to do.
Sonia has a question. Will a high alcohol level transfer to baby if I'm breastfeeding and want to have 1 glass of wine or 1 beer?
You can drink while you're breastfeeding. Let's just make a point here to talk about the difference between breastfeeding and pregnancy, because sometimes people take what I say about breastfeeding and then they apply it to pregnancy, and I'm saying absolutely not. There are people out there who talk about it's fine to drink a little bit while you're pregnant. I'm not one of those people, so I'm just going to say, personally, I don't recommend any drinking while you're pregnant. Even 1 glass, we don't know how much is too much, and there's some new studies coming out now with pregnancy that talk about generational impacts on future generations of alcohol consumption during pregnancy. So we really don't understand it. Well, the fact that there's new studies on things we never knew about, it goes to show you that it's not worth taking a chance because we just don't know everything, okay? Now, when it comes to breastfeeding, it's different. And the reason I say it's different is not so much because of the amount of studies, but because of what we know, how alcohol or medications enter, how they metabolize, how they get into the milk. So it's a milk connection versus a blood connection, and it's an intermittent connection versus a constant connection, like when you're pregnant. And when alcohol does go into your milk, it doesn't just stay in your milk, it metabolizes back out. So given enough time, say you have 1 glass of wine or 1 glass of beer, if you give it enough time, 2 hours or 3 hours to the next feeding, that milk, that alcohol will go into your milk, but it'll also come out of your milk. And it goes in a smaller percentage than what's actually in your blood, so it's not the same as your blood. One more caveat to that, though, because I don't think we always talk about this, and it came up, where was I talking about? I don't remember, but about medications and anything going into your blood. Oh, we had a show on donor milk this past week, and we were talking about moms who want to donate their breast milk to milk banks. And can they actually? What if they're taking medications that we say are okay for them to breastfeed with, but the milk banks won't accept it if you're on that medication?
Sure.
Why is that? And the reason is because depending on the age of the baby, okay, like newborns and preemies can't metabolize certain drugs as well as a 5-month-old or a 6-month-old. So if that milk was being donated for a micro preemie, that medication wouldn't be okay for that micro preemie, even though it's okay for your baby to take while you're, right? Yeah. So alcohol, if you're going to drink, I would say the younger the baby is, the less able their bodies are able to metabolize anything like alcohol or drugs. Yeah. So maybe you just want to wait a few weeks, 6 weeks.
But in terms of timing, if you want to have a glass of wine, right after you nurse, or while you're nursing, have a drink while they have a drink.
Yeah, that's when I used to have a glass of wine. I had wine when I was
sit
nursing.
down and relax.
Just try to time it, and if you feel anything, if you feel drunk in any way, buzzed, anything in any way, it's probably not a good idea to nurse your baby. I wouldn't do that. So, and in that case, you don't need to actually dump the milk. You can wait a little while longer, wait another 20 minutes, and then try to nurse then. Or if you have some milk stored, give a little bit of milk that you stored, and then pump your milk in another half an hour. It will eventually come out. Just don't dump it. And don't treat it the same as pregnancy. I always want to say that because we talk about this so often, and then I'll have people say, but I thought you said that 1 glass is okay when I'm pregnant, and I'm like, no, it's not the same.
And it's very different. If you are, a lot of, when you are early stages of labor at the end of it, to help your body relax. I know some people will be have a little bit of red wine to just relax, take a bath. That's different than drinking wine your whole pregnancy.
During pregnancy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, alcohol suppresses labor. So it was one of those things that we used to tell, like I was a midwife, I delivered hundreds and hundreds of babies in my practice. And one of the things that we used to say, like, if they were in false labor, if they were awake for days and we just needed someone to take a rest and they were home, was to, like you said, have that half a glass of wine. And it is a different situation. They used to use IV. Do you know this? This is really crazy. So years and years ago, before we had tocolytic drugs, like drugs that actually could stop labor, preterm labor. So you're in preterm labor, you go to the hospital, they give you IV medications to stop your labor. Years ago, they used to use IV alcohol to stop labor.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because it's a tocolytic. It would actually stop the uterus from contracting. So, yeah, I used to talk to nurses who worked labor and delivery, like, we're talking like 40 years ago. And, it's hard to believe, right? But they used to use IV alcohol to stop labor.
That's crazy. That bird's a liar. Katie has a question. I may have to have a C-section for this pregnancy. Is this going to affect breastfeeding at all? My firstborn never could latch properly. I used a nipple shield for a bit, but she was still allergic to cow's milk and in pain, as well as having severe GERD.
A lot of people worry about, like, if you're having a C-section, will your milk come in? Is that going to impact breastfeeding? It's kind of a yes and no answer. The no, let's start with the no. Okay, the no is no because how does milk come in? Milk comes in, it's a hormone shift that occurs during birth. It means that when your placenta delivers, there's a hormonal shift from high progesterone to prolactin, and then once the placenta delivers, your prolactin levels will rise, and then several days later, your milk will come in. So the answer to that first side of it is, no, it shouldn't have an impact. Your placenta came out, your milk will come in. That being said, there are other factors that cause low milk supply and issues with milk, and that would be things like not nursing frequently.
Lack of skin to skin.
Yeah, lack of skin to skin, not nursing frequently in those first few days, having lots of separation, or if you had a C-section because you had some kind of medical condition, you had lots of IV fluids. Lots of people go through days of inductions, right? And they're getting all this IV, they're getting all this Pitocin for days and days, then they end up with a C-section. A lot of Pitocin, a lot of IV fluids can cause a delay in your milk. So I never like to say, no, it doesn't matter, your milk will still come in, because what was the reason for that C-section? Did you have a lot of blood loss? If you had a blood loss, if you had all those IVs, that can impact your milk from coming in. It doesn't mean that you'll not be able to breastfeed, it's just something to keep in mind. Talk to a lactation consultant, get support because you're going to need it, and talk to the staff and to the people that are supporting you through that surgery and through the C-section to try to get skin to skin with your baby as soon and as frequently as you can. Even in the in the operating room, if they can put the baby up to you, even in the recovery room, if the baby can go to skin, all that actually supports the baby to latch on faster, more effectively. It just supports breastfeeding all around. Skin to skin's always the answer. So it's kind of a yes and no.
Yeah.
And I would say don't stress, just be prepared and understand that there are things and factors that can influence it.
There we go. Despite trying all kinds of ways to boost my supply with my first, I just never made enough for her. I'm due with number 2 in December, and I'm wondering what can I do once my little girl is born to try to ensure an adequate supply.
Right back to the answer that we just gave. Those first few days after a baby's born, it's just drops of colostrum that are coming out. And so lots of times people underestimate the importance of those first few days of nursing, okay? Because they're not getting large amounts of volume, right? It's like drops, it's like teaspoons at a time.
Because their stomachs are also
Their
wee.
stomachs are really, really small, and colostrum is really like a medicine for the baby. It's really potent in immunity and giving the baby all the protection, immune protection, more than giving them fluids or food. Babies are born fluid overloaded from being in the uterus and swallowing all that liquid, and they need a few days to actually pee that out. Okay, so which is why the whole system works the way it does. But you know, when you're talking about building a good milk supply, not only is it important once your milk comes in to be feeding on demand and like emptying the breast, right? We all know that there's like supply and demand. Once the milk comes in, we need to empty it to be able to make more. But there's also a key point in those first few days when the baby goes to the breast frequently, like I'm talking every hour and a half for a few minutes of colostrum feeding, there's stimulation occurring to the nipple and to the breast that creates receptors in the breast for prolactin, which is that hormone we talked about earlier, to help you have a good supply. And so skin to skin, frequent short feedings at the breast, like often in those first few days, helps to build up those prolactin receptors, which then leads to a more abundant milk supply throughout the year. If you don't have the receptors, the prolactin can't really work that well. And so when you have a lot of separation, or you're wrapping your baby a lot in those first few days where you're swaddling them up really tight, they're sitting in a bassinet next to you versus on your body, skin to skin, and nursing frequently, we can interfere with breastfeeding of what's coming. And so look back to see what you did the last time. Maybe you didn't do enough frequent short feed. I don't time the feedings. I don't tell people, you need to do 20 minutes on each side, which very often, I don't know how it is now too much, but in the hospitals, they'll say, try to do 20 minutes on each side. I don't even think that's a good thing because it means nothing. Like, I'd rather see a baby nurse for a few minutes effectively on one side and then just take a break because they're exhausted, they got enough colostrum, and then in an hour, keep them on your skin. They'll start to search for the breast because it stimulates them to eat. Put them on the other side for a few minutes, stop them if they want to, and do it again frequently versus these long feedings.
And Sonia had a question. How long should you be doing skin to skin?
Well, you know, babies benefit from skin to skin for a long, long time, you know, for months. The whole first year, I would keep on doing skin to skin. It benefits them. But at the very least, in those first 3 months after your baby's born, they need skin to skin as frequently as you can do it. So often I'll have people, you know, message me, schedule consultations with me. They just had their babies and their baby's not latching on. Okay, the baby's too sleepy, the baby's not latching, what's happening? They want to give the baby formula in the hospital because they're afraid the baby won't latch. And it's because they're not unwrapping their baby. Like, they'll wrap the baby up and they'll wait for the baby to cry. It is just the wrong thing to do, okay? When that baby is first born, that baby should be skin to skin with mom as much as possible. And when mom needs a break to take a nap, dad can do it. Okay, so skin to skin, you can't do enough of it.
It also really feels really good.
It feels good. It helps to stabilize their body temperatures. It helps their heart rate, their respirations. It actually helps them to latch. And so where I was going with that is when people say, I can't get the baby to wake up and latch, I'm like, unwrap that kid, unwrap them completely, down to a diaper, take off your top, put that baby skin to skin, and just wait. Because if you allow the natural instincts and reflexes to kick in, which it will when the baby is down, like face down on the mom and at their skin, you'll start to see your baby do certain things where they start bobbing their head. Okay, this is all reflexes. They're bobbing their head, they're opening their mouth, they're smacking their lips, and they're searching for the nipple, and they're guiding themselves through smell and through sight to see the nipple. All different things that actually get the baby to latch. And it's just remarkable when you watch moms do this when they didn't realize there is something so built in within your baby that you have right there. Just like all mammals, okay? Like all animals that are mammals, those babies do their natural thing and they make the way to the nipple and they latch, okay? But they're also not wrapped up and kept away from their mothers.
They live in a little pouch like a kangaroo does.
Yeah, and so we want to just go with what our bodies do, and our babies have a natural inborn intelligence in them. I mean, they're born with this intelligence to survive, and breastfeeding and eating. These are survival things. These are things that we really don't need, for the most part, in most cases, in normal cases, we don't need to teach our babies how to suck.
Yeah.
We don't need to teach our babies how to be hungry. They are, and when given the right circumstances and allowed to play out those natural instincts by doing skin to skin and not interfering too much, most babies will latch to the breast and nurse.
And also, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and it's come up in conversation a lot. Babies are not meant to sleep through the night either. So if you are not feeding on demand throughout the night, every couple hours, that there's many things that can go wrong with that, including you have a supply issue because you're not nursing on demand and emptying.
Absolutely.
So babies, it's okay. You're not going to sleep in the beginning. Get used to it.
Yeah.
That's why as you go through your pregnancy, towards the end of pregnancy, you are not sleeping like normal. It's training your body to be in like no sleep mode to nurse.
You need a lot of help. You need to have some support, and you need to, and it sounds so cliche, but sleeping when the baby sleeps, it's really your only job. Stop worrying about the laundry. Let someone else help you with that. Don't worry about cleaning the house. Take care of yourself.
I'll come over and do your laundry.
Jamie,
I'll come over and do your laundry.
I think you'll have a few requests if you say that out loud, right? But you know, it's really important to understand this whole low milk supply. You know, I'm really starting to really focus on the whole low milk supply issue because, and I was thinking about this a lot last night. You know, low milk supply is actually a problem, a really big problem. And there's 3 types of low milk supply from what I can see. There's primary, which is like a clinical low milk supply from whether a medical condition, like you have PCOS, you have thyroid issues, you have IGT, like insufficient glandular tissue, something medical, or the baby has tethered oral tissues like tongue ties and lip ties, where you're doing everything right, but still you have low milk supply. That's the smallest percentage of low milk supply that we see. Then there's the second one, which is you have an actual low milk supply, but it's because of something that you did that caused it. Not purposefully, okay, but something that you did or advice that you received that gave you the secondary effect of a low milk supply. So you timed your feedings. You took that advice and you said, I timed my feedings, or I scheduled my feedings, or I tried to sleep through the night and kept my baby tightly wrapped so the baby didn't give me their signals and wake up. And now I have a low milk supply. Yeah. It's true, but it's a caused issue. And then the third one, which is what we talked about yesterday in the Q&A, is the perceived low milk supply. And the good news about that is that's the most common type of low milk supply, is perceived low milk supply. And it's good news because it doesn't actually mean that there's a low supply. It means that you feel that the supply is low. You think you should be making more. You think your baby should be eating more, and it's actually just inaccurate information, a misunderstanding of how much babies actually eat when they're breastfeeding, and maybe bad advice on how fast they need to be gaining.
You know what we don't have a low supply of? Tinder likes.
It keeps going up. I see it. They like you.
Carla has a question. What are your thoughts on dieting while breastfeeding? Will it hurt my supply? Do you have a specific diet recommendation? Example, high protein, low carb for while you nurse. We talked about this in the live Q&A here yesterday, actually, so this is good.
So, you know, you can diet while you're breastfeeding. I wouldn't do that until your baby's at least 6 weeks old. You know, the most important thing is to eat really healthy foods. Whatever you eat, your milk will still be perfect. So, good or bad, you know, you eat good, you eat bad, the milk's still the same. Really, there's no effect on your milk, the quality of your milk, with the exception of maybe like non-organics and toxins. Things like that do get into the milk. So if I was to focus on anything, it would be on like looking at like the Dirty Dozen, like the most toxic fruits and vegetables and produce, and trying to stick to more organic with those, and trying to, you know, do things that are a little cleaner. But as far as the quality of your food, it's not going to impact your milk at all, really. What it will impact is you. So you want to be taking care of yourself and healthy. Most people don't need to diet when they're breastfeeding because you are going to burn calories, but you're also hungrier. So it has that's when you hear people say, I didn't lose any weight, I gained weight, I never lost it.
And that's all right.
And that's okay. It's okay to do that, but yes, if you have extra stores of fat on your body, okay, I understand that. If you have extra stores of fat on your body, you could decrease your calories and still make sufficient milk. If you don't have those extra fats stored on your body, you should not be going lower than 1,800 calories a day, or you can impact your milk supply. So it really has to do with how much you have to lose, and eating a lot when you're very, very thin is important so that you do make a good supply. As far as the type of diet, I'm all for high protein, lower carb, no sugar, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and low-fat proteins and good fats like avocados and olive oil and things like that. That's really always your best bet, and just keep your quantity to don't eat very, very large meals. Spread them out throughout the day and eat small, frequent meals of high-quality food and exercise.
There you go. Oh, speaking of exercise, we got a Tinder like. Is it common for an 11-month-old to eat every 3 to 4 hours?
Absolutely. You should be eating every 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, 3 to 4 hours, normal, very normal. When my kids were reaching that age, once they start to eat extra food, like complementary food, after 6 months, 7 months, whenever they start to eat solids, typically, you want to offer the breast before you offer the solid food. But often they just want to eat snacks. They may decrease their feedings to 4 or 5 times a day in 24 hours, which means you may be going 4, 5, even 6 hours between the feedings. So that's very, very normal, especially at 11 months, as long as they're eating other foods. You want them to eat. Dawn and I talked about this when we did our show on starting solids. The whole idea that food before one is just for fun, and you really don't need to feed them at all. They can just breastfeed till they're a year. We kind of both agree on this, that it's not that food for one is just only for fun. Yeah. It's really important that they start to introduce the textures, the idea of chewing, of putting other foods in their mouth and being exposed to other flavors and other things while they're still continuing to breastfeed in that first year, after 6 months. Does it have to be at 6 months? No, you're waiting for signs from your baby. But to withhold food is not a good idea. You want to start feeding them solids in addition to breastfeeding and offering that milk first.
There you go.
We have a live question.
Hi, yeah, what?
There's someone here.
A lady just has a question right now.
She's here.
So we'll just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Been wanting to meet you for the longest time. This is my baby.
Hi. What's up? Hi.
Hi. What's your question?
I guess how do I pump and watch him while he's fuzzy?
How do you pump and watch him while he's fussy?
Yeah, when it's my time to pump and he's fussy.
Are you exclusively pumping?
Yes.
Okay. So how old is your baby?
5 months.
5 months. I love his hair.
Thank you.
Okay, so she has a 5-month-old, and she's exclusively pumping. And
Come on
I know
in.
she is. Okay. She's got a 5-month-old. She's exclusively pumping, and she's asking, how does she, with a 5-month-old who's fussy, continue to pump? One of the things I would say is, are you waiting to pump till he's hungry?
No.
Okay. So is it just that when he sees you start pumping, does he get fussy?
Yes and no. I feel like sometimes it's my time to pump, and then I'm like, where do I put him? And then
Gotcha.
he's being fussy.
So what I would recommend, yesterday I was fitting bras all day over at the Women in Nursing Wear booth. Okay, and it's a line of nursing bras that are super comfortable that you can nurse in, and you can also pump in, and so you don't need extra garments or anything like that. What I would say is some kind of hands-free, so that you can read to him. You can interact with him while you're pumping, instead of having to wait and sit him in a swing or a bouncy and not interact with him. I think that would probably be the best thing, is some kind of hands-free, and try to time his feeding and his, when he's hungry, so that it's not happening right before you're ready to pump. But that's sometimes hard. I know that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Hands-free would probably be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you so
yeah,
much.
he's super cute.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
What's up?
See ya.
Yeah, we're here all day. All day. That reminds me, I get to go steal a friend's baby today and wear her around.
There's so many cute babies here.
My friend Amy from Stork Sack had a little girl, and I got to hold her yesterday. And she's,
Delicious.
oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah, it's dangerous, right?
So that's going to be really good.
Awesome. I'm trying to read.
It's always tricky when the comments are long on here. My little girl turned 6 months today, and she's just shy of double her birth weight. She can't figure out solids yet, but we can't get her to take in over 24 ounces a day when bottle fed. I wonder if I can go in and find the rest of that. Hold, please.
Can't you click on that?
Well, sometimes it will like mess it up. I even wake her. It's too hard.
Yeah.
She won't eat over 24 ounces a day. So I guess, Alyssa, I'm sorry I can't see the rest of your question.
Yeah.
But are you
Even
like
when I wake
asking
her-
for tips, or like even when you wake her, she
Okay,
won't?
so let's just say this. The baby's 5 months old, right? Is that what she said? 6 months old and double her birth weight?
Yeah.
Which is actually, okay, it's good. Baby's gaining, fine. That's telling me that, she's actually gaining weight. She's doing well. And I'm assuming, since you're not saying that she's losing weight or she's not peeing or any of those things, that she's actually doing okay. The baby does not need to have solids at 6 months. What we were just talking about is that you want to wait a minimum of 6 months. It may take your baby longer than 6 months to be ready for solid foods. And so you're not just taking that as like, okay, baby 6 months, that you need to eat. They may not be ready to eat. They may not be ready to eat yet. And 24 ounces a day is actually a normal amount of milk. So again, this is a low milk. This is like, am I making enough?
Yeah.
She's not asking it in those questions. But she's thinking she needs to give the baby extra food because why? Because she thinks 24 ounces in a 24-hour period is not enough. That's that perceived low milk supply issue of like, I think I don't have enough, or the baby's not taking enough, okay? 24 ounces in a 24-hour period is actually on the low end of the normal amount of consumption.
Yeah, I was like doing the math in my head, and I was like, yeah.
Babies eat anywhere from 1 to 1 1/4 ounces per hour, ongoing. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But 24 ounces means an ounce an hour. If you're pumping or feeding an ounce an hour, that's normal.
She says she makes up to 32
But
ounces
the baby
or
doesn't
more.
want more.
Yeah.
So great. So she's pacing the feedings. She's not forcing the baby to eat more, right? She's feeding in a bottle, obviously, because she can see how many ounces. But she's letting the baby guide her as to how much the baby wants to eat. And the baby's saying, I had enough at 24 ounces. And the baby's gaining. Babies can be small. They can be petite. Breastfed babies don't always become huge.
I mean, that's also good, because if she's doing 32 ounces a day and the baby's eating around 24, that gives
got
her
extra milk.
That's great if like she has to go back to work or she's
Exactly.
going to do anything. Like that
So
gives you a good little stash.
If you're making 32 ounces, your baby's only eating 24, store some of that milk so you have a good amount of stash in the freezer, and then think about maybe some donation too. If you make extra than what your baby can eat, again, we did that whole show on milk donation, and it opened my eyes up too. Like, I know all about milk donation and milk banks and how important that is, but they really need donors. Babies that are premature that need that breast milk in the hospitals, it's a matter of life and death for those babies.
Yeah.
And we rely on moms who have that oversupply, who are making more, pumping more than their baby can eat. You don't need 2 big freezer full of milk, and you don't need a freezer full of milk of extra for your own baby. You want to have some extra, and then if you can donate some of that milk, reach out to your local milk bank. That's the best thing you could do. Even donating some, so great. They take care of all the expenses as far as like shipping it, the screening. There is some screening, but after that, it feels really good for the moms who follow me, who donate. They're just so happy to
it's
do
huge.
it. So.
And I actually, when I was in Austin, I toured Mother's Milk Bank of Austin, and it's a really incredible thing they do with all the donated milk. They like screen it for caloric content and nutrients, and then they basically custom batch the milk to fit the needs of the child that is receiving it, and it's fascinating. Like
Yeah.
how intense and in depth it is.
Oh yeah, it's really amazing, and thank God that we're doing it.
Yep.
Thank God we're doing it. We need more of it. That's all donations. So whatever you have extra. And they also said, like, if you have, say you're at the end of breastfeeding and you have like all this milk because you did buy that extra freezer and just kept storing, they can take milk that was frozen, that you've had previously frozen, not intended to donate. You still have to go through the screening. They'll ask you some questions about when that milk was stored, as long as you dated it. They will take it and receive it. So don't ever throw out milk. Don't ever throw out your breast milk, ever.
Well, that's an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we are here all day, Sunday. We are living our best lives. If you're at LA Baby Show, you can find Shari in the Evenflo booth. We have, again, it's 1:45 is our live Q&A. I have one at 12:30, so I have about an hour to go live my life.
Just answer the one last question, because I think she
Oh, yeah,
posted on my page,
yeah.
right? When's the best time? Brittany asking one last question.
I have a little
here.
boy just over a week old. When is the best time to start pumping for an extra freezer supply when she's going back to work?
Okay. The best time to start pumping for extra supply is after 6 weeks. You want your full milk supply is not established till about 6 weeks. You're really like feeding what you have. Your body's trying to accommodate and acclimate to the amount that your baby needs. You may be engorged. To prevent yourself from staying in that oversupply place, I would not start pumping extra bottles for storing away until about 6 weeks. I know this advice differs, and some people are like, take advantage of that time when you're engorged and keep pumping it out so you have it for later. But the problem is that your baby, you really need to start regulating in those first few weeks. Don't worry so much. If you have a lot of milk in the beginning, as long as you keep nursing on demand, you'll continue to make milk. And there are ways to store extra while still breastfeeding your baby. So 6 weeks to start storing, sooner than that to introduce the baby to the bottle.
Yep.
I do it much sooner than a lot people recommend. I'm talking about 1 to 2 weeks after you've started, after the baby's born, if breastfeeding is going perfectly well for you. That means no sore nipples, no milk supply issues, no tongue ties, no anything. The baby's latching, your supply's in, everything's going well. You may want to start introducing just a little, like a half an ounce once a day, not to do a feeding, but to just get that baby used to a bottle. If you know you're going back to work soon and that baby needs to take a bottle, by 3 weeks they become they have like a nipple preference,
Yep.
where they can reject one or the other, and so you don't want to wait too long, okay? But make sure if you're having any issues, you see a lactation consultant. You don't just start using a bottle at that point, okay? And one more time, the pump, you can win a pump.
You can win this.
An Evenflo Advanced Double, then
I just won a Tinder like again. The Evenflo Advanced Double Electric Pump. We have a link there. You can win it. It's got closed system, multiple phalangises, independent speed and suction, the option for batteries, and
that's
Shari's
huge.
breastfeeding and pumping classes included. So
yeah,
go
use
winner.
the link, go register, and we'll get a random winner out of that too. Okay,
Yep.
so
And we'll see you all later. Next
awesome.
month when we do this again. And for those of you here, I'll see you around. Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's go work.
Bye
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye, y'all.
See you soon.